14th Sunday in Ordinary Time, Gustate et videte, comes from Psalm 33, which you might find as Psalm 34 if you're using a modern translation. But it's one of the most famous Eucharistic psalms, for good reason. And I think this is one of those places where the spiritual meaning of the psalm seems actually to make more sense than the literal meaning. Because literally, how can we taste and see that the Lord is good? Only because of the Incarnation can we have this kind of physical intimacy with the Lord. And so in the Eucharist, of course, we literally do taste the Lord. But we have to go beyond that, of course, and this is why the second verse is also important. Blessed is he who hopes in him. And so we have to see spiritually who is truly present under the signs of bread and wine, which we taste and bring into ourselves. There is much to say about this text, and I'm not going to go on too much with it, only again to say that there are many commentaries on this particular text having to do with its Eucharistic reference. We might also, for example, remember our Lord's teaching that they are blessed who hunger and thirst for righteousness, and in the Eucharist we have Christ who is our justice and righteousness that we are truly thirsting for. Last week and the week before, I started to talk a little bit about interpreting the chant and what we know about the oldest manuscripts now. One of the principles that has come out from this study over the past 50 or 60 years of the ancient manuscripts, it's the 4th of July, by the way, that's why you might hear some fireworks in the background today. We know that the text and the pronunciation of the text is what is really driving the music. Some of this can be expressed in a fairly trivial way. You heard we did two phrases in this. Taste and see how sweet the Lord is. Blessed is the man who hopes in him. There were two musical phrases that basically went with these two textual phrases. What's interesting about how the music is set in this style, which is very different from what we're used to, is that the accents of the words oftentimes come as one note surrounded by lots of notes on unaccented syllables. We're going to sing for you beatus vir, and I want you to listen carefully to how this is set musically. This means blessed is the man. The word beatus is accented on the second syllable. And if you noticed what we sang, that syllable only got one note. Beatus vir. If we use the technique, the solemn technique, which is 100-some years old at this point, for understanding the rhythm of this, we will want to make every note more or less the same length of time. Beatus vir. And it sounds a bit mechanical to my taste for the text. If we want to speak the text, we would say beatus, beatus. And the reason that the chant composer said it this way, we can best illustrate perhaps by Father Anthony Ruff's coinage, the Here's Johnny principle. And this will date us, I'm afraid, but when Ed McMahon would introduce Johnny Carson on his television show, he'd say, "Here's Johnny." Now, which syllables are important in that? Is it the one that we hold the longest? Or does that, are we extending that syllable in order to accent Johnny, right? So let us sing Beatus one more time and hear how the stretching out of the notes before and after the stress syllable actually heighten the stress of that syllable. So here once again is Beatus vir. Beatus vir. There's one other place where I'd like to illustrate this. we're going to sing suavis est Dominus. Sweet is the Lord. And it sounds like this. Suavis est Dominus. So in the word Dominus, where we ended, you heard that we actually held the stressed syllable a little longer compared to the notes around it to hear the accent. Same thing with beatus, we held it a little bit longer. The last point I would like to make is on the word suavis. The accent again is on the second syllable, but in this case we have 3 notes on that stress. Suavis est, suavis. And where we're going to put the accent on that second syllable is actually on the last note. Okay, in modern music we might sing it this way. Suavis est, right? We put the accent on the first note. In chant, according to the earlier manuscripts, it seems that the accent on these syllables goes on the last note. Suavis est. I think it's easier to understand that way. Suavis est Dominus. So we're going to be exploring some of these ideas as we go through the year with the different communions. We're going to sing Gustate et videte one more time for you before we finish.